Technology can actually help you minimize risk, and I'll talk about that, of course, bill more and work less, and get you more clients. So what do I mean by minimize risk? All of us usually think about minimizing risk for our clients, but I'm talking about minimizing risk for you. So today we have access to better information. It's going to help you avoid making mistakes. So information is affordable, it's easily accessible, it's crowdsourced, which means a bunch of people are contributing to it, it's been vetted and it's trusted and true. It's useful, and you get case law, statutes, templates, blogs, and communities that can really help you get the resources you need, which I didn't have access to when I had my own practice. It was, I had access to, I think, Westlaw through my law school, so I would literally have to go back to my law school, look up the case law, go back to my office, and try to make a sense of it. So today you have case text, which is free. You get case law, interpretation, blogs, and opinions from experts who are in that particular area of law and can give you a little more background information on the cases you're looking up. You also have Ravel Law, which gives you information on your judges, their past decisions. I didn't have this before. It was usually me asking a friend or a colleague, have you been before this judge, and can you tell me a little more about him or her and how they rule? Are they nice? What do they prefer? Now you get the data. You get information, how they ruled over the past few years and their decisions, and you can tailor your argument to that. And Lex Machina, which I always mispronounce, but they have legal analytics. They look at patterns in litigation and data, and it can actually help you determine what are the chances of your success. So they have information about judges as well, opposing counsel, parties, and the subject of the cases themselves. In addition to better information, you have better documents. I shouldn't admit this, but I did. We had this thing called ICL. You probably all know it, but I don't even know what it stands for anymore. But it was basically a step-by-step instructions on how to handle any matter. So when I was in law school, I always knew I wanted my own practice. So I kind of may have borrowed those templates and saved them over the course of the years. So when I started my practice, I would have ready-made templates that I could use. Well, they weren't great, and I had to retype them because it was all PDF, and you can convert it, so it was a mess, and it took a long time. Today, you have them through your client relationship or case management software. LegalZoom and Rocket Lawyer, I don't know how prevalent this is in Illinois, but California lawyers, they usually tell their clients, just go on LegalZoom and Rocket Lawyer, fill out whatever they want from you, and then I'll review it, and it'll cost you $250 instead of the $1,000, and all the time it would take me to guide you through that process. So those are great documents to use as templates. You also have Docracy, which is a great template resource for startups, shareholder agreements, partnership agreements. Legal templates, you basically pick what area of law you're interested in. It has all kinds of templates you can use. And bar associations and legal organizations like the Association of Corporate Counsel, which I was a huge fan of, they had great templates. And then you also have communities that can help you either make them better or kind of give you interpretations of some of the clauses if you don't know how they would fare out in the real world. And then on top of it, you have document automation. So before, I would go through every single document, try and replace my former client's name with the new client's name, which I'm sure some of you have seen the core documents with 2 different client names. Never a good mistake to make. Clio will help you populate those fields and avoid that mistake. Concord is contract management software. It does that for you as well. This helps you minimize mistakes with version control, and again, you avoid using your former client's name in your new client's case. You will bill more and work less if you use all this technology. So what do I mean by that? And I'm going to go into some math. So this is me relying on bar associations data. So it's kind of close, but not as accurate as Jack's. So the average billable rate is $275 per hour for lawyers. I think he said it was $232 based on Clio data. So just use mine, just because that's what I have. Sorry. So the hourly rate for attorneys practicing up to 10 years is $275. There are 2,080 workable hours in a year if you work from 9 to 5. Most of us work from 9 to 9, but let's go with the easy number. And so that comes out to $572,000 that we all can earn in a year. The average lawyer in Illinois makes $79,000. At $275 per hour, that comes out to 287 billable hours. So if we work 2,080 hours, That means almost 1,800 of them are not billed to our clients. That comes out to about $38 per hour. That's your actual billable rate, and a loss of $492,000 in potential earnings. Where does all this time go? Well, I talked to some lawyers, and this is some feedback based on what I've done in the past. A lot of us are managing our businesses, so you're billing, your marketing, your copying, filing, organizing your case files, communication, a lot of that goes overlooked. You don't bill for a lot of it. A lot of your emails and calls, you miss those. If you have 50 emails you have to answer, you get through 50 of them, you'll miss half of them at least. Discounts, my clients hated that I billed for my travel time, so I would always just give them a discount. Social media, so I read an article in New York Times that on average, each of us spends at least 50 minutes per day on Facebook. That's an hour of your billable time. So that's where our time goes. Networking, if you go to events, traveling, as I mentioned, your CLEs, doing those is always fun. And then there's the occasional coffee and lunch, which probably takes up 3 hours a day. So in order to save some of this time that you're losing by not billing, what can you do? You can use the data, as we talked about, as Jack talked about earlier. Your client relationship management software is going to give you a lot of summaries of your most profitable cases and tasks. Where do you spend your time? So you can see and use that information to maybe focus on certain tasks and maybe avoid others that aren't as profitable for you. You see your billables, your discounts. This is all information you can use to actually allocate your time accordingly and maybe bill more and spend less time on tasks that aren't really profitable for you. Again, you see your discounts, and this will help you improve your productivity. You can, well, a lot of people are talking about, and they have been for about 10 years now, about billing flat rates and fixed prices. You can see, okay, I spent 10 hours on this task, and that's the average time I spent on all of these tasks, so maybe I can just build a flat rate, and my clients will have more transparency, they know what's coming, clients get happy about that. And then again, you can focus on your profitable tasks and plan ahead with your budgets and your time. If you know it's going to take you 10 hours on average to prepare a certain document, then you can plan your budget and see, okay, this is how much money I'm going to earn, and this is how much time it's going to take, and maybe you can work just 10 hours instead of the 40 that you're working per week. You can also track your billing and your time. So client relationship management software or your legal practice management software, you can send out invoices automatically. This will save you time. You get paid through them. I don't know if you guys saw the data presentation earlier, but on average, you get paid a lot quicker than you would through traditional means, through checks or waiting for your clients to pay or sending them invoices. And you can keep track of all your tasks as well, using time trackers, apps on desktop, and online timers. So everything's kept track of. You don't miss your emails or your calls anymore. In addition to that, you have your communication automation. And this is probably my favorite slide because it talks about one of my favorite tools that I used before. Other than client relationship management software, which automatically sends emails to clients. You guys, if you missed the Lexicata presentation, it's great. The intake process is one where you get sued the most if you miss a lot of information. So using Lexicata and Clio to automate the intake process, sending emails to your clients and leads, is a great way to automate your communication so you never miss that email. You can set deadlines for each case, and this is the favorite part, the phone calls. So I had 2 cell phones at one point, one for my practice, one for my personal life. And I discovered Google Voice. So if you don't know Google Voice, you need to get familiar with it. You can track the length of every single call. You can have a separate number without having a separate phone. And you can track every single voicemail, which is transcribed. I used to reply to my clients through text instead of having to call them back, even when I was in court. And you have the separate number from your regular number. And there's a widget for your site. So if you have a website, you can put up a widget, and people can call you directly from your website, which is so fun. And then document management and business admin. So this also wastes a lot of time. So if you keep all your documents in one place, through your client relationship management software, it's easy to search and keep documents together. I used to have the paper file. I had the desktop folder for every single case. And then I had my emails. All that was separate. If I go to court and I forget something, it's never a good story. So having it all in your CRM and having it accessible from your tablet, your phone, which everyone uses these days, it's a great way to keep everything in one place and automate it as well. So as I was talking about earlier, everything's automatically filled in for your clients' information. You have the ready-made templates, and that saves you a ton of time. I won't go into too much detail on courtroom technology, but that's getting advanced as well. I've talked to some of the, I won't say which judicial councils, they're implementing a lot of technology to automate things for you as well because they see a demand. So e-filing, it's getting more and more prevalent in every single court. No more standing in line. Hated that, wastes hours. They have fillable forms, no more retyping. You can save them into your CRMs and fill them in there. And then you also have case management tracking, knowing when your case is up, what the next step is. That's all becoming more and more prevalent in courtrooms. And lastly, research made easy. So I talked about case text earlier where you can research cases and get some of the crowdsourced information, but case text just launched a new product called Kara, where you can upload a document and automatically finds all relevant case law and citations for you. That is a huge time save, and it's a great tool. So if you haven't tried it, definitely do. Oh, and CaseBot, which just got launched, so I forgot a little bit about it. CaseBot, if you use Slack, you can look up cases through your Slack account. So it's a new tool and minimizes emails and conduct research in the same platform. And then getting more clients through technology. So as I said, 50 minutes of your time is spent on Facebook, so you might as well put that time to good use. So this is how lawyers fare in the tech field. Only 44% have a website. When it comes to client relationship management software or your law practice management software, only 25% of the lawyers actually have this software that they use, which is a huge waste of time, if you ask me. LinkedIn, so 57% of all lawyers are on LinkedIn. I think it's a great networking tool. You can meet other lawyers who can maybe help you out, and you can refer your cases to, and clients as well. Facebook, 35% of all lawyers are on Facebook. Most of you probably have personal accounts, but when it comes to having Facebook pages, it's actually detrimental to you when it comes to lead generation not to have a Facebook page, and I'll go into some more details on that. And then Twitter, I can understand why no one wants to really have Twitter, but it's one of my favorite tools. I met half of you probably on Twitter. It's a great networking tool, and I met some of my co-founders in an organization I founded, actually all of them, on Twitter. So it's a great networking tool, and it's a great way to share information with your clients. But what does all this mean for you? If you don't have a website, if you don't have a Facebook page, what does this mean to you? Well, if you look at the statistics, people who actually seek legal assistance, it represents only 7% of the population. So of all the people out there, only 7% of them actually seek legal assistance. 69% of them will only speak to you if you're on social media. So if you don't have a Facebook page or you don't have a Twitter account or LinkedIn, you're losing potentially 30% of these clients. So let's look at the numbers. Facebook users in the US, there's about 175 million of them. In Illinois alone, 7.1 million. Of those people, 500,000 of them will actually seek legal assistance if they need it. 69% of those people, which comes up to 345,000, will only talk to you if you're on Facebook. That is your potential client base that you're losing if you're not on LinkedIn or Facebook or Twitter. If you're on LinkedIn and Twitter, in addition to getting all these clients and this potential client pool, you can actually use data. And you've probably seen this in other sessions, but you can use the data from your website, from your LinkedIn, your Twitter, Facebook page, to find out about what your clients want. So you get the numbers. How many people are looking for you? How many people are searching your name, your firm, or what you do? The demographics, are they men, women, are they a certain age, do they work in a certain field? You can get a lot of information of who your potential clients are, and you can use this information to target that specific demographic. And you can also see where's everyone clicking, what topics are of most interest for them. If you have a practice where you're focusing on family law and corporate law, maybe all your clients are looking for the family law assistance. So you can see if they're clicking on that, that's where you can focus all your practice on, or your marketing. And I know that this sounds like it's a lot of time, but most of this can actually be automated. So I have a blog, and trust me, I am not blogging 24/7, but it does look like it. So I use tools like Hootsuite and Buffer, and I'll just cover this very quickly, where you can schedule automatic posts. HubSpot, which has great marketing tools and ideas for you if you're stuck and you're maybe not feeling very creative. It gives you a lot of information on how you can target certain audiences and what tools to use and automate things. And you can also get scheduled reports about the demographics and the numbers that come to your site, your Facebook page, etc. So it's not a lot of work, but it's a big return on your investment. So I understand that this may be a lot of information, it's overwhelming to constantly think about how else can I improve my practice when you're focusing on your client and trying to get those billable hours. but it's a huge return on your investment, as I said. Because lawyers who use technology have better practices, and they don't quit like I did. I look back on that time, and I get angry. I get angry at myself because I could have done a lot better job. I wouldn't have reached that point where I'm working 24/7, where I'm billing very, very few hours, and where I get to the point of exhaustion, and I just don't want to do it anymore. So technology has a lot of benefits. So before you go today, I want you to think about 3 things that you could do to make your practice better, whether it's building a website. If you're part of that 56% of lawyers who don't have a website, you should get online. It's pretty easy to do, and I even have a blog post about how to do it. It's 5 short little steps, and it's cheap. If you don't have client relationship management software, which I think probably everyone in this room does, but if you're not using Clio, get on board. And social media, if you don't have a Facebook page, maybe you set one up. Maybe you're on Facebook looking at your news feed. Maybe you can set up a page. It takes about 2 minutes. But if these are the things that could really help you improve your practice, because lawyers, again, who use technology, bill more and work less. They make fewer mistakes. They get more clients. They meet their obligation for rules of professional conduct. So I think it's up to 26 states now that require you to be tech savvy. So Illinois is one of them as of October of 2015. So you need to understand technology. And you minimize stress and maximize your return on your investment. So, thank you. And with that, I want you to meet Zach. Zach is from Above the Law, and he talks about legal technology all the time, and he's one of my favorite people to talk to about legal tech. So, want to introduce yourself?
Sure. Nice to meet everyone. I'm Zach. So I, like Mary, am also a recovering attorney. When I was working in a big law firm in New York City, the only thing that would keep me sane every day is that I had these very contentious email debates with a very good friend of mine. And then one day I said to him, you know, wouldn't it be great, because we were debating everything under the sun, I said, wouldn't it be great if the two of us, just you and I, could publish these conversations and everyone else in the world could follow along like a fly on the wall? And he said to me, you know what I think would be better? Is if actually interesting people could publish those conversations and we could follow them. So we built this company called Reply All, and we are basically used to host conversations on websites, and we work with Sports Illustrated and TechCrunch, but the very first site that I went to was Above the Law. I, like you, if you're an attorney, there's a good chance you've checked Above the Law before to at least find out the gossip on someone else. So I went to Above the Law and I said, listen, I've got this new technology, this new tool to host conversations, and you don't have to do anything. I'm gonna come and I'm gonna publish the conversations for you. All you have to do is embed one line of code. So we started doing that, and I started trying to get like some famous people. So I first had a debate with my old professor at NYU Law about the fact that I thought law school exams were a sham. You can guess which side of that I was on. The next one I did with John Grisham, and the next one and afterwards I did one with Mark Cuban. So after exhausting my celebrity guest list, I decided, well, I left law. I don't really want to talk with other lawyers anymore, but I bet legal tech is like a thing. This is a couple of years ago. I said, I bet there are some people doing some really interesting things in legal tech. And my co-founder said to me, but you don't know anything about legal tech. And I said, don't worry. I said, luckily, I'm just going to bring on other people that know something about legal tech, and I know something about startups. I'm just going to ask them a bunch of questions, and everyone will think I'm an expert. So when Mary asked me today if I would present alongside her, I said, aha, I'm not going to do my own presentation, but what I'll do is I'll listen to Mary's presentation, and I'll ask her, since she actually knows something about legal tech, I'll come up here afterwards and ask her a couple of questions. By the way, extra credit, if you go on Above the Law right now, you can see that Mary and I are having a conversation while we're here at Clio Tech to get like super meta. We're going to be bringing some other people in, so if you have something interesting to tell us, maybe shoot me an email, maybe come up and say, hey, Zach, invite me to the conversation on Above the Law. I'm pretty gracious with inviting guests and would love to hear from all of you. So with all that now as a background, Mary, yes. you had a really interesting presentation. I think one of the things that I came away with looking at it was like, wow, there is a lot of legal technology out there. Yes. And I bet some of the lawyers in the room are thinking, oh my gosh, like, am I going to be able to adopt every single one of these technologies? How can I make sure that in the process of trying to use technology to enhance my practice, I don't end up wasting a lot of time. So I know that it's something that you've dealt with. So
Yes.
what are some of your best tips?
Sure. So when I went in-house, I started thinking of ways to multiply my efforts and my effectiveness in-house because my company went from 30 employees to 100 in about a year and a half. And I was still the only in-house counsel, and we didn't have the budget to hire someone else. So it was just me, and then finally my paralegal, thank God. But we had to find ways to be more efficient and effective. So we started looking at contract management software. And I won't name any companies because I don't want to ruin their reputation.
Name them.
No. Maybe later, private conversations. But I paid about $25,000 for contract management software that my paralegal chose. And that's one thing is that you have to think about who's going to use this. Is it just going to be you or your paralegal or the other attorneys in your office? If all of you are going to use it, then all of you should test it out. I didn't test out the software myself, and I made that mistake. She loved it. I hated it. It was awful. It was not, there was no way to make anything intuitive. You couldn't figure out if you're in the contract part or if you're in the client part. It was a mess. So she loved it, and we ended up not using it at all because she was using it, I wasn't. So we spent $25,000, about a year trying to implement it, and it was just a huge waste. So one, figure out who's going to use it and have everyone test it. Ask for demos, and always, always ask, what's the implementation process? Are they going to put all your data in there for you, or are you going to do it yourself? Because when they started it out, they said, well, we're going to help you with it.
And this was a fairly late-stage company. This
right.
wasn't an early company. They had
Right.
customers at this point.
They had customers.
I think that's like the frightening part for lawyers is that
Yeah.
you could be dealing with a company that more or less looks legit,
Yep.
has a lot of customers on their homepage. You think, okay, these guys are good, but
Yep. And they even had good reviews on Capterra, and I looked up, other client reviews and to see, and it looked legit, it looked great. But when I had to implement it myself, they said, well, here's all the information we need. I said, that's fine. We can give you all the documents, and you guys put that in yourself. Well, I basically had to hire someone else to put in all the data that I was missing into this giant spreadsheet that I was overwhelmed by. And I'm pretty tech savvy, and I couldn't handle it. So we hired a temp. We spent maybe 3 months putting all that data in. It was just, and at the end, we just decided to call it quits. And I went with Concord, which is very intuitive, easy, cheap. It was $500 a year, which was ridiculous compared to the $25,000 I spent. And they had templates, and everything was just automated and populated. So one, test out the software, do some demos, and always ask a lot of questions about the implementation process. Who's going to do it? How much is it going to cost? Because eventually I had to strip the data from PDF documents that they wanted me to do to make it easier. And they said, that's going to be an extra $29,000. I'm like, well, there goes my whole budget. So I can't. So I just called it quits. So yeah, ask a lot of questions, test it out, and definitely look at multiple products. I only looked at the one that my paralegal suggested, and I went with it, which was a big mistake.
have you found, because I know you do a lot of reviews on your own site on disrupt.legal,
Yep.
Which, by the way, if most of my articles on new products on Above the Law probably link to Mary's blog on disrupt.legal, where she's done a review of it, because I don't do product reviews. But I'm curious, Capterra, there's IT Central Station, there's some other review sites. Have you found those to be helpful, or do you find that, it's okay, you can be honest, like, do you find that the review sites are ultimately helpful, or can you get a product that's got good reviews, but when you buy it, it's a mess?
It's good. They have good information about all the products that are available out there that you can look at. But in terms of reviews, there's usually like 1 or 2 people who loved it, and they're those people who post the review. And then all the people who hated it don't even want to take the time. I'm one of those. I never reviewed the company I use because I was just so angry and frustrated. So you don't see the bad reviews. At least that's how I see it. So it's good to start with to see what's all available for you to use, but in terms of reviews, just ask the questions, talk to the company.
And I won't mention any names either, but I've seen products that I think are less great than others get 5-star reviews all across the board on some of these sites. So you have to be careful. Now you mentioned later stage technologies. One thing we were discussing a little bit before was some of the early stage companies, and you write about a lot of the early stage products and review them on your site. What have you found personally to be good ways to vet the early stage companies?
You can look at how do they respond to you. So I usually reach out to those companies. I ask them, tell me about your product, tell me what features you have, and then I tested a lot of products out there, and I usually give them some feedback. Maybe you could add this feature. You have to look at how they respond to you. Are they willing to work with you? If they're an early stage company, if they want to make you happy, they will build and create anything you want. And that's actually a good way to tell if they're a good company, if they're going to make it in the long run. If they don't know what you're talking about, if they don't understand what features you're talking about, and they're not willing to work with you or create something that's really beneficial for you, that's a pretty bad sign. And I've actually tested some products where they're always like, oh, here's this great feature. I'm like, yeah, but what's the point of it? I don't care about that. Like, no one's going to use that. Well, it's great. Look, you can click here. I don't care. So they usually have to listen to you, understand what your needs are, and they'll go above and beyond to make you happy. And that's usually a great company
I think
to
that's
talk to.
Yeah, and I want to add on to that because I think that's a fantastic way of looking at it. I know what a lot of people do when it comes to early stage companies, and this is a smart move. I understand why people do it. They go and they check, has the company gotten funding from venture capital firms? Great way to vet a company. Except, and this is a line I love from Paul Graham of the Y Combinator, who says, you can fool yourself and you can even fool investors, but you cannot fool the user. And I think that really speaks to exactly what Mary said. If a company comes to you and just starts pitching their product hard and telling you how great their product is, and it's got this amount of bells and whistles, and it can do this and it can do that, you should immediately be very suspicious. On the other hand, if a company comes to you and says, because I'm sure, just a show of hands in the room, how many of you have been pitched on a new legal tech product over the course of the last year? How many of you have received 5 follow-up emails where you're pretty sure that someone is just looking in their Salesforce and saying, follow up, right? So if the company comes to you and says, well, what are your biggest pains in drafting pleadings? Or how are you doing your contract management? If they start off with questions and you find that they're asking you a lot of questions, that's probably a good sign for a company. The other sign, and this is something that Mary, you talked about before, if a company comes to you and tells you about their feature set and you say, well, I think I need something, I need something like what you're building, but I would also need it to do X, Y, and Z. If they immediately say, we've got you covered, we can do that, that's a company. If they tell you that they can't do it, run in the other direction, okay? A company, an early stage startup, is under so much pressure to get traction that if they at that point can't get you by filling in the holes either manually on their end or building the feature set that you want, that's a good sign that that company is not going to be around in 6 months, or they're going to be acqui-hired and their product is going to be folded into some other big company. You want to make sure that you're dealing with companies that are working for you. And here I can actually give a little bit of a personal story. When our product was really early, and by really early, I mean really crappy, we actually did some of the best work for our customers than some of the better work than we've done even more recently. In what sense? A nonprofit organization came to us and had a challenge for us for how we could use our system to help them get a grant. And we were able to help them get $2 million+ grants for their startup. And that was with a really, really crappy version of Reply All. If your product, if you are a good startup, if you're going to be the kind that's going to be around, even when your product is at the early stages, you're going to be able to do some good things. Have you had that experience also in terms of speaking to startups? I know that both of us like Law Geeks. I'm actually wearing their shirt today. That was my last clean shirt. I've been traveling for the last 2 weeks. This is it. If the laundry service at the Radisson Blu doesn't work, you're going to see me wearing the shirt tomorrow. But I'm curious if you had that experience also in working with early stage companies.
Well, Law Geeks is actually a good example. So I said my budget was really tight at my company, and I needed a second set of eyes on my contracts. Instead of paying outside counsel lots and lots of money to review my work, I decided to rely on Law Geeks. And Law Geeks basically goes through a contract, says these clauses are great, they're always included in this type of contract, and here's a few anomalies and things you might want to check out. So it's a great tool to have a second set of eyes on my work, because I'm doing 15 contracts per week, and having someone else look at it and tell me what I've missed or what I've overlooked is a great tool. So I started using them, and I actually reached out to the founder. I did a review on them because I love the tool so much, and he reached out to me. He's like, how can I make this better for you? What are you missing? You're the in-house counsel. You're my target customer. What are you missing? And I told him, well, it'd be great if I could actually draft some of the contracts in there and automate some tools, and maybe I can share this information with the other people in my organization. They can see and use templates that I've approved previously, and then I don't have to review another NDA 15 times in the day. So they actually listened to me, and I think they just implemented a new tool that does a lot of this automation that I kept complaining about and that they actually heard me on. So companies like that, LogX is amazing, and they're really affordable, and they provide a great service and a great tool for in-house counsels.
Right. What are some other products? I know you mentioned a bunch on there, and I'll add two in that are fairly new. And I think this sort of speaks to, let's take a step back. Where else, besides for disrupt.legal, besides for, of course, my pieces on Above the Law, what else are you reading? How else are you learning about technology? Because it's not as if it's all consolidated in one spot. So how are you getting smarter each day?
I actually look outside the U.S. I feel like the U.K. is way ahead of us when it comes to legal tech, and don't get mad at me. But there's Legal IT Today, which is a legal IT magazine that I actually ended up writing for because I was such a huge fan. I started stalking some of their writers, and anyways. But they have a lot of good information, a lot of tools that we're still trying to build here. One of them was, it was a bot that fights traffic tickets for you. So I've talked about bots before and how we should start building those, and actually it's fairly easy. There's a bunch of tools you can use where your client can post a question and a text replies, oh, this is what the statute of limitations for that case is. So you can build your own tools, but I look at the UK, Europe in general as a market, and see what are they doing that we should be doing to kind of inspire me and to learn about new technologies that are going to come to the US fairly soon.
By the way, if you're on a company blog and every other article is about why you should use that company's product, again, run in the opposite direction. That company is going to be gone in 6 months. But a lot of the legal tech blogs that I've seen, a lot of the companies are really producing great things. I just saw on Logical's blog the other day, the e-discovery company, a really great company. I saw that they were published a post about other litigation tools that you can use. Obviously, they're trying to target people who are litigators. But they're not just telling you about why Logical is the best thing since sliced bread. They're telling you about other companies. And I think that's a great place to learn. In addition to Above the Law, I've mentioned Lawyerist, another really good site. Bob Ambrosie's site is excellent. He's the godfather of legal tech. Definitely another place to check out. I'm not the only writer on Above the Law, by the way, covering legal tech. There are others. There's Joe Borstein. There's some names. Joe Patrice, who I think is here, writes often very about legal tech. The other place, I think, Twitter. There are a lot of people. Mary mentioned people on Twitter. There are a lot of people who are tweeting great things on Twitter. I want to mention a couple of other companies, though, that you might not know about that are new. I don't want to mention them as sort of an exhaustive list about what tools you should be using. I want to mention them just as opportunities so that you think about, hey, if legal tech is not as big a part of my practice yet, here's why you might want it to be. Now, I'm going to start with a very expensive tool, but if it'll allow you to get business. So Kira Systems has a fantastic product called Diligence Engine. When I was at my law firm, I spent most of my time looking through documents, finding the change of control provision or the most favored nation clause, and taking that information and copying and pasting it into a document. I remember at the time thinking, I bet a robot could do this better. Well, it turns out that someone had that idea and thought, I'm going to build that robot. And Noah Weisberg founded a company called Kira Systems, and their main product is Diligence Engine. And it can help do the diligence for an M&A deal much faster than lawyers could do it manually. And besides, Due Diligence Engine doesn't get tired at 2 a.m. in the morning like a lawyer does, so it's a really effective tool. It's definitely going to be on the pricey end, but what it allows a small firm to do, and this sort of gets to the opportunity point, it allows a small firm to take on a deal that it couldn't have otherwise. You would have had to hire many more lawyers than you have. You would have had to have more resources, and I think that's what a lot of the companies out there are doing right now, and I speak to all of them. And I see Andrew Erida from Ross & Tell in the room, and there's a lot of companies out there that are presenting to venture capital firms in the following way. They're going and they're saying, all the big law firms are using the following legacy tools. These tools are expensive, they're hard to use. I want to empower the other 80% of attorneys who are not at big law firms to compete with those law firms. We're going to give that other 80%, that blue ocean, we're going to empower them. That means that the legal tech companies are promising institutional investors that they can empower you, right? They're trying to give you an edge. They mentioned one other very new company you might not have heard about called Legalist. How many of you have had clients who are unable to pay? Oh, come on, I don't believe that it's just that few. Clients who are unable to pay, particularly for expensive litigations, is a pain point that addresses many lawyers. Well, in the past, litigation finance companies would only finance those deals that were going to produce a huge return, like an intellectual property case, like a patent case. That's what they were financing. Legalist now is in the business of has created basically an algorithm that can pick winners from losers, they claim with a 90% success rate, and they are actively looking right now to invest in cases. They've come to me and said, Zach, introduce us to lawyers who are who have clients who might need financing for an expensive litigation. The common thread between these two companies, and I think what's really exciting about it for all of you, and in some ways I kind of wish I was still in law so that I could take advantage of so many of these tools, they're trying to empower you. They're trying to come to the solo lawyers and the small firms, the mid-sized firms, and say, we want to give you all the tools so that you have an edge over the big law firms. And I think that really gets to the question of like, why learn about legal technology? Not just, it's not just about having tech for tech's sake. It's because these companies are trying to empower you.
Yes, and talking to them and actually getting involved with the legal, especially the early stage ones, you're actually helping them build these products for you. They're empowering you, so you giving them feedback will give you better tools, better information. Everything's going to be automated for you. You're going to be a much better lawyer and happier lawyer if everything is done for you through the use of technology. And by working with them, you can give them a lot of feedback. And if they're not asking for it, then don't talk to them and never use their product, as Zach said. And I have to talk about one of my favorite products, which they're under the radar because it's two founders. I think they have full-time jobs, but one of their wives is a litigator, and she gets discovery requests all the time. So they automate. He wanted to spend more time with her, and she would always fill out those answers, and you have to copy the question, then type in the answer. Well, they automated that. You would basically upload the discovery request, and it populates it. You can either pick that standard answer that every one of us always picks, or you can put in your own. So this is automated for you through, it's called Disco Legal. So definitely take advantage of early stage and give them feedback, talk to them, and the founders are great. They're really friendly. They'll give you some, they'll take your feedback and build a better product. They've definitely done that when I've given them feedback.
All right, great. I think that's it. So listen, if you find us during the conference, talk to us. We're happy to answer other questions. And thanks, Mary, for inviting me to have a conversation with you.